Welcome to the season finale. Tonight is the final episode of In Conversation with an Expert. And don't worry, it's not the final episode. I will be back in April for season 2. But tonight I'm so excited for my conversation with the wonderful Victoria Smith Murphy, who is a leadership coach and a careers coach. And she will be speaking to us tonight about all things career, love, dating, how this can all happen together. So I can see that she's joined me, so I'm going to make sure we add her so that we can get stuck straight into tonight's topic because it's an important one for many reasons. Hello,
Hello, my
Victoria.
love.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My back's a bit achy, but I'm good.
You're
How are
good?
you?
I'm very well. I'm so
Mm,
excited that you're here and we're doing this conversation
thank
together.
you. Me too.
There's
You, me
so
too.
much here, I think, that we can really dive into together. And I think will be of so much help and
Mm.
service to everyone who chooses to be here tonight. So thank you for being the final guest of this, what has turned out to be more of a project and more of a beautiful kind of
Mm.
thing. I don't even know what to call it yet because it was just meant to be a few episodes, show up on an evening, and
Mm.
people have been joining in every week and been taking part and been sharing how much these conversations have meant to them and what they've been taking away. And so
Mm.
I just knew this is something that needs to be continued. It's important. And yeah, just to have you here and for us to have this conversation together, I'm very excited about.
Me too. I'm really. And what have you most enjoyed about them?
So it's been for me, it's been the different perspectives. So the whole point of this conversation is, of course, I can be here as the fearless dating coach, sharing my perspective of how I believe you can be more of a fearless dater in your life. But
Mm.
what's the beauty of these conversations are the sort of the satellite topics that we can talk about in
Yeah,
relation to
I like that
dating.
term.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
like that.
because, when I've found that in our lives, especially, speaking from my personal experience, which is a big reason why I've chosen to do this work and specialize in this area, was because my dating satellite was just completely in a completely different orbit to the rest of my life,
Mm.
right? There was my career and my finances and my relationships with my family and friends and everything, and they were all happening in silo, which for me wasn't a great thing and
Yeah.
something I've definitely worked to reconcile since then. But dating was just in a different
Mm.
sphere, a different place entirely. And so
Mm.
having these conversations, realizing, well, we can work on these things in tandem. They can support
Mm.
each other. We can really progress areas of our lives that are deeply important and meaningful to us. That's been
Mm.
beautiful. And to see I guess, feel the synergy between these different parts of our lives has been really cool. So, for example, last week's conversation was all about adventure, looking at
Yeah,
our
I saw
dating
that.
life, right, as an
Mm.
epic adventure.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. I just wrote about it actually earlier today, did a post about, there's so many parallels between going on an adventure and dating. But man, are there so many parallels between careers and like looking for a job and recruitment and dating. I mean,
Mm.
it's just uncanny, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there probably are. And it's interesting. Actually, sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please do interrupt me because I'm interested to hear what you say.
I agree with what you say about dating tends to I think this was true for me as well. Dating existed in a different orbit. Um, and I almost feel like I don't know if this is the same for the clients you work with. It was definitely the same. Sorry, I keep on getting these notifications and I've swiped them up. I don't know if it's the same for your clients. It was definitely true for me when I was dating, and it's definitely true for some of my clients. Like dating feels like something that's more out of our control. Like other things, like career in general, and especially the type of people I work with who are, typical high achievers, really powerful individuals, often powerful, and I mean powerful like from the inside. A lot of personal power, a lot of ambition, blah, blah, blah. Career is something they feel they have control over. And dating often feels like it's on like a different plane. And it can be really difficult, I think, to accept that you're the same person in every aspect of your life, particularly with those two areas, I think, of career, and we can talk a little bit about why it feels so different, but the areas of career and dating or love life, I think, can feel such polar opposite energies that it's almost difficult to reconcile the fact that you're the same person in both of them. So it feels like it is difficult to allow them to kind of softly come together.
And I love that. Yeah, you're a different person in both of those aspects of your life. And yeah, and they seem, as you said, they seem polar opposites, at work, like on it, da, 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 go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And in your love life, you're like, and soft and sensual. Is this the same person that we're dealing with?
And that's really, that I think is the biggest stumbling block. It certainly was for me, and to be honest, it still is. And I can tell a little bit. I'm not dating; I'm married now, but it shows up still in my relationship. Like, I work a lot with the balance of masculine and feminine energies, and many of us, so much more comfortable with the masculine energy, drive, ambition, action, forward momentum, and we're not as familiar. But I'm always going to say, particularly women, we're not as familiar with the more feminine energies of kind of stillness and receptivity and intuition and balance. And so I feel like I used to try and take all this masculine energy and like shove it into my dating life and like force it on someone. And I do it even now with my husband. Like, I'm trying to do a lot of work at the moment to reconnect to my feminine energies within a long-term relationship. It's really, I think it can be really challenging.
So let's unpack that a little bit through your journey,
Sure.
because you were in this digital marketing world, right? Really flying high in your career, and you were doing so well. And then you switched gears completely and you decided, okay, well, hang on, something's not right here. And you became this coach, bless you, this leadership and career coach. What was life like before that change, and what did it become?
Oh, that's a big question. So I think there's probably, I would almost pull out three phases. I mean, I think, I don't know if you do this as well with your clients. It can be really helpful to like look at the timeline of a part of your life. Like, I definitely do it with clients and the timeline of their career. And I imagine it would be really interesting to do with like timeline of your experience of dating as well. There's three phases I'd probably pull out in that question. One is my life in the corporate world when I was happy, when it felt, and happy is not the right word, when it felt right, when it felt aligned with me. Then there was the period of time in the corporate world where it felt misaligned. And then there was the after the decision to leave. And I think when it felt aligned with me, I loved it. Like, I loved the cut and thrust of the corporate world, and it really played to, I do have a lot of masculine energy. I do have a lot of like ambition and drive and blah, blah, blah. I think where it became misaligned with me was when, first of all, I realized I didn't care about the work I was doing in the corporate world. And secondly, like, I remember very distinctly a conversation I had with my boss in the UK when I moved back from the States. And he said to me, "Where's Red Vicky? I need Red Vicky back." Because I wasn't this like boom, 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 bulldoze everything down anymore. Because I had connected more with some of my, well, just a different aspect of myself, and that was no longer fitting. And I think, and I believe this is true in career and in love life. It's a Glennon Doyle quote. I'm sure you've quoted Glennon Doyle before. When faced with the choice between abandoning yourself and abandoning anything else, always choose anything else. And to have tried to fit myself back into the corporate world would have been abandoning myself. So I abandoned the corporate world and quit with like about 3 months worth of savings and just figured it out from there. That was a long-winded answer.
No. It's good. I think, it's beautiful demonstration of those phases that and stages that we go through in our lives, be it, in our careers, our
Mm,
relationships. Where is that point in our relationship to whatever it is, a person, a job, our health, whatever, where things switch, things
yeah,
change. It's like, oh yeah, to begin with, I was showing up. I was showing up fully. I was there.
yeah.
I was,
I was in it. I was
I was in it,
present.
exactly right.
Yeah,
I was getting my hands dirty. I was there, and then whew, something happened, and
yeah.
I started to move away. And then the impacts that they have on other parts of your life. Because as I was preparing for this conversation, I was thinking back through, my personal experiences where when I was in a previous relationship, and I I remember being so unhappy in my career. Like my previous career was
Mm,
IT security, and how just zooming out and looking at that relationship, how much that conversation about I'm so unhappy, what should I do? Oh, I hated work. Oh,
mm,
kept creeping up in the relationship, and therefore, how did that affect my dynamic with him? How did
mm,
that impact the quality of our relationship? Because I was
mm.
always bringing that part of me that felt so misaligned with what I
Yeah.
was doing, and felt so lost as to, but where else do I go? What else
Mm,
do I do?
yeah.
What's out there? You know? And of course your partner can be there to support you, and but there's a, they can't do the work for you.
No.
Right?
And that someone, sorry, I'm a big person. I remember loads of quotes and I just throw them in. Someone said to me really early on in my career, no one's ever going to care about your career as much as you do.
Right.
And I think when we're in a place, I think some of the mistakes, that's the wrong word. Um, when we're expecting someone else to care about our career as much as we do, that shows up in work and out of work. You're looking to your boss to rescue you and like find a way to make you happy. You're looking to your partner to fix it.
Mm.
Or I'm not saying you were necessarily doing that, but I think if there is a pattern of wanting someone to fix our problems, it tends to show up it shows up everywhere in life, but for most people, work and relationships are the big parts of your life, especially if you don't have children.
Mm.
So like that feels like a repeating pattern.
Mm. Yeah,
Somebody
and
fix this for me.
exactly. And it's that resigning your power to something
Yeah.
outside of yourself, right?
Mm,
Of like, okay, well, someone give me the answer. But then there's that moment, and I guess which was the start of phase two or stage two for you, where it was like, no, this is this is not right. I need to change something
yeah.
here, and I'm the only person that can change it. And I that resonates with me twofold. Firstly, from the careers perspective of
Mm.
like I had that moment, and it's interesting actually. You and I met at Escape the
We
City, I
did.
think,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my
We were
God,
doing
I forgot about. Oh my God,
all
that was like
those years
it's like
ago.
a summer school or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Sat
that
around
was
that random desk.
yeah, that co-working space which
Oh,
was just when I returned back from Bali, so a good few months fresh out of quitting my career and figuring out what to
wow.
do next, and that's when I was training to be a coach when you and I met, and it was that moment of okay, I know that nothing is going to change here unless I
Mm.
decide to do something differently. And it was exactly the same moment for me with my love life, with my dating life, where I realized I'm shit scared of dating. But no one's going to save me from that. No one's
Mm.
going to teach me how to be a better dater. No one's going to, go in there and do the work for me or find the partner for me. I'm going to have to do that. And so recognizing in that, and I was speaking about this yesterday actually in a live that I was doing about that moment where you recognize I'm the common denominator here. I'm the
Mm.
one that keeps going from job to job to job or relationship or date to date and fucking it up, really. That's that kind of energy. And actually that's not a thing for me to blame myself about or
Well,
shame
exactly. Yeah.
myself
How
about.
can I recognize that from a place
Yeah.
of curiosity rather than fear,
Yes.
compassion rather than blame?
Yeah, exactly. And also a moment, if harnessed and utilized well, what a moment of power and leverage that is. That, oh, I am the common denominator. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I can do something about this. Right? I have the opportunity to change this.
And where I find, where I think the work you do is so amazing is because, so I work predominantly with people on their career and their leadership. I mean, obviously it goes deeper than that because we are human beings,
Yeah.
and you know, especially you and I both have a very spiritual approach to coaching, I think. Like, we're not just talking about, you know, what's your goal, how do you meet it, blah blah blah. But what I notice with my clients um, who also talk to me about dating is that you're the common denominator, but there's someone else. I think that's the kind of the struggle. I think a lot of really kind of successful, empowered, ambitious people have is that when it comes to dating, it's like, well, I'm only 50%. I feel like, and I think
Yeah.
that is a mindset change. I feel like I'm only 50% of the equation. I can't control whether that person fancies me or falls in love with me or wants to get married at the same time as I do or wants to have a kid. Like, it feels like there is, like, I think we're more comfortable with the controlled environment of, or what feels like maybe more of a, I've got more control over my career because it's all to do with my choices. Does that
Yes.
does that make sense?
Very much so.
I'd
Yeah.
love to hear how you like approach that.
Yeah, I think, it is that it's recognizing that you have your choices that you can make, and you are going to take as much responsibility for them as possible, but to know that they actually are going to meet up, collide with someone else's choices to whether they want to be with you, whether they want to start a family with you, whether they want to, have a committed relationship, marriage, whatever it may be. And you have no control over that. But I think that is what makes a relationship so very exciting, beautiful, and nerve-wracking. Right?
Yeah,
All of
yeah.
those things that do you know what? I'm fearlessly going to show up to this. I'm going to show up to this, give it my all. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I really don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I want to know that at the end of this, at the end of whether we're looking at the end of the relationship or the end of our lives or whatever, that I tried. I really, really tried. I gave this my all, and I wouldn't change that for the world. And I think that is just such a feeling of that's a life well lived. That's
And
fulfillment.
it takes a lot of that takes a lot of courage
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
you have to have such a strong sense of self that someone else's reaction to you or someone else's behavior towards you doesn't it's not that it's water off a duck's back, but it doesn't dent your sense of self. It doesn't change your fundamental belief in who you are.
Yeah.
And I think there are definitely parallels there with career, because we can become so caught up in other people's experience of us as a leader, or the feedback we get, or rejections from job applications or whatever, that it can feel like, oh, this is about me, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a huge amount of personal work to be able to genuinely kind of meet any circumstance with exactly what you just said. Like, I've set an intention, I've taken action towards it, and I release the outcome, and I trust that whatever is meant for me will come to me.
Yeah. If we keep showing up, right? I think that's the
If we
thing.
keep yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yeah, if we keep showing up as in our truth, to use a
Yeah.
awful expression that I don't really like, but yeah, to show up
Yeah. To
as we
not
want
kind
to
of
be in the
back
world.
off into in the shadows, because that's the thing. Of course,
Yeah,
there definitely
yeah.
need to be times where we retreat, and we have that time where we just we just stop for a moment, right? And we just recoup our energies
Yeah,
and
your
do
inner
whatever we
winter.
need to do. Exactly, yes, inner
Mm,
wintering, right?
mm,
But then where is that time of emergence where we then,
mm.
step into our spring and we're like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be all guns blazing fanfare or anything like that. It's just like, I'm just going to dip my toe in enough just to get reacquainted with this world, get reacquainted with this part of me
mm,
again, to see what's out there. And it's that picking up and putting ourselves back out in the world again that is so, so important. And it happens with work, right? You, as you
yeah,
said, you apply for a job, you get you get that what we feel is a rejection letter, but actually, and what we want to do is stop at that moment,
mm.
right? But actually, no, what do we do to keep that energy going?
I want to share something that a client, I have a massive belief that our clients are our greatest teachers. A client shared this with me the other day about job applications, and it actually feels quite true about sort of dating and love life as well. She says that when she applies for a job, she talks about the bit, so she looks at the job description, like you always talk, look at the job description, say in your covering letter why you meet the job description. And she says she only talks about the aspects of the job description that she wants to do, that she is passionate about, and that she would love to spend her days doing or being. And she's like, if I don't get a call, but if I don't get an interview for that job based on what I want, then that's actually really positive, because that means that that wasn't going to make me happy.
That's
As
so
opposed
cool.
to trying to be everything.
Yeah,
And I think that's really true of dating as well. Like,
totally, totally. It's like not twisting ourselves into what I used to think of like pretzel-like shapes to be
yeah,
accepted by
yeah,
this other
to
person.
cover all bases. Or he might want me to be
Yes,
like really like sensual, or he
this.
might want me to be really like feminine, or he might want me to be really funny, or
Yeah,
like
yeah, and
what
it's
part
that.
of me am I supposed to show here?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that, I speak about it often of where when we are, say, for example, when we're meeting someone in person and we're dating out in the physical world,
Mm.
and we would never go up to someone if we liked the look of them and we, started a conversation with them and then just tell them our life story or everything that we wanted. But when it's transferred to online dating, people just think, I've just got
Yeah.
to write everything about myself in this profile. I've just got to cover
Mm.
all bases.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
That's really interesting, because I've been married for, I don't know, when did I meet Scott? In like 2012. So I've been married, we've been together for almost 10 years. So like my experience of online dating was like super early on. Like I'm going to show my age here, but do you remember Hot or Not?
Yeah, oh, that sounds
Hot or Not.
familiar.
Oh my
Yes, hot or
God.
not.
So Hot or Not, I think, was like one of the first ever like internet dating things. And you basically would like rate people of how out of 10 of how hot they were. But anyway, that's a complete aside. Like I do like it's become such a thing to share everything about yourself. Like it's seen as a good thing for everyone to know everything about you. And I can imagine when that's translated to the online dating world, it's difficult, I think, to trust yourself. There's probably even more rules about what you should and shouldn't do, because it's got this like technological structure around it than there even was when I was dating.
Yeah, I think, the plethora of dating online, all the different options that are available to us, it can be a bit of sensory overload if we
Mm.
don't manage that well. It's like signing up to every single recruitment agency possible to
Yeah,
work on your
yes, yeah, yeah,
behalf,
yeah, yeah.
right? It's like you're going to be inundated, not
Mm.
necessarily in the way that you want to be, right? So
Yeah.
how do you manage that? How do you protect that space? How do you make sure that you're showing up to all of those things well? And that's why I always say to my clients, I have this rule of two. One dating app, one dating site at any one time, So you're fully present to those, and they both require slightly different things of you. You know, an app is slightly more concentrated in terms of the things that you can put on there. So that teaches you that skill of being succinct and straight to the point. Whereas the dating site, you have more of a longer form space to fill, and therefore that allows you more time to just delve into that world, delve into that dream that much more. Use those and use those well. Then when you're really sure that you've got as much out of it as you possibly can, then make sure you close one down before you open another one up, right? So close down that total jobs account before you open up the reads one or whatever it may be, right? So you're not this outdated energy all over the interwebs, right? Because that's what happens. We then have all these
just leak.
Yeah, exactly.
You become like a diluted version of yourself.
Yes, exactly. And I think, you know, with your dating profiles, when they're out there online, I always say this, that your profiles, and this is the same for careers profiles as well, like they're speaking on your behalf, right? They're speaking on your behalf when you're not at your screen, when you're not on the end of the phone speaking to a recruiter or speaking to your date, right? They're there like telling the world how great you are whilst you're perhaps on another date or at another interview or you know, like sleeping.
So would you, I'm really curious about this. Would you like a lot of the work that you do with people, is it around, it feels like online dating has become such a big part of the dating experience that the work is almost as much about like how do you navigate the space of online dating, almost more than how do you actually experience relationships with people?
I think it's both of those things. And of course, with fearless dating work, it's first that how do you navigate it? Because we're getting through that before we get to that stage of then obviously trying to work the relationship. So yeah, for people, it's the vast majority of people don't know how to date online. It's this thing that feels so overwhelming and big to them that actually we need to address that first. Okay, well, if this profile is speaking on your behalf while you're sleeping, eating, dating, you know, in the shower, whatever it is, we want to make sure that it's saying the right things about you. And interestingly enough, one of the clients that came to my very first online profile makeover that I ran around this time last year, actually, she used the method that we went through to actually sort out her professional profile first before she did her dating one, which was really, really cool.
Because it is, it's like, how do I want to present myself?
Yes.
And it has to come from a place of inside out, not outside in. Not what do I think other people want of me, but what do I want to present of myself? And as you say, equally as important, what do I want to hold back?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't need, I don't need everyone to know that I'm scared of sharks, like, or that I can't think of anything else that I wouldn't want people to know. That's really bad. Like, what is for me and what is for others?
Yeah. And what is for later, right?
What is for later, yeah.
Right. Because, yeah,
we don't owe anyone anything. And I think that's another really interesting thing. Like, one of the conversations I have a lot with people about their career is the relationship that gets built up between a person and their organization. And it is a relationship. And there's often this sense of like gratitude, or I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I imagine, I don't imagine, I remember continuing to date guys who were not for me in any way, because I was grateful because they were either, I don't know, they had a car. I'm thinking of when I was 16. Like, they had a car, or there was something that I felt grateful for. Like, I hear people stay in organizations because of the brand, because it's a cool brand, or because, they're, I don't know, something else that makes them feel that this is something this is an opportunity I should be grateful for, as opposed to being like, this isn't right for me. And that's okay.
Yes, exactly. It's that scarcity mindset, right?
Yes. Yeah.
okay, or there's status attached to me being with this person or working
Yeah.
at this company or having this
Yes.
job title,
Yeah.
and without it, I'm lesser,
Yeah.
right, for it. And
I'm
actually, thank
exposed.
you. Yeah, exactly. But thank you, date. Thank you, company, for taking me on.
Yeah.
Right?
Even though I'm like not worthy of your brand or
Yes.
your car or your
Yeah.
job title, whatever.
Yeah. It's so important. And so that takes me to want to ask you about those situations, you know, clients that you've worked with where they know that something isn't right for them, a job or a career choice, but yet they choose to be in it because perhaps of this status or this scarcity mode of, oh, there's nothing else out there for me. What do you advise to them to do?
Well, I don't advise anything, but coaching,
Coaches. Yeah, let's spot that right away.
passive aggressive.
Yeah.
A lot of the work that I do, and I actually I struggle sometimes to sort of distill the work I do with people into a process. And I have actually done it because I also have a program called the Intuitive Career, which is kind of a step by step of the process that I go through with people to find a career that's aligned with their soul and who they want to be. But the place I always start is intuition. If you can strengthen your connection to your intuition, if you can know when something is and isn't right for you, your decision making will get a gazillion times easier. Once we know what we want, I don't think this is necessarily 100% true, but another quote I love is, once we know what we want, everything else is just problem solving. Once you know this job isn't right for me, this relationship isn't right for me, this guy, although he doesn't tick any of the boxes, feels right for me. Like once you can trust yourself and you can start to follow intuitive decisions and see how they lead to better things, change becomes a lot easier. So I always start with intuition. I've completely forgotten your original question.
So actually, no, that's great. Yeah, you have, because I want to just pause there for a hang out here for a moment. How do you encourage, not advise, encourage someone to
Invite.
to build that intuitive muscle? If they're thinking, do you know what, like a specific example is coming to mind of
Sure.
someone that is going through a hell of a lot right now, in terms of their career, their love life, their what's going on at home for them. There's just so much going on right now, and they know that their job is not something that they really want to be doing or they're enjoying. But how do they get in touch with that intuitive muscle of theirs to know, to even get to that point of like, oh yeah, I trust what's being said here, what's coming up for me here, because this is really important, because the whole trust thing comes up a lot in the fearless dating work as well. You know, that's one of the key things that clients come to me with is this: I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to make the right decision. I don't trust myself to pick the right partner. So
And
how
if
do
you
you?
can't trust yourself, you don't trust anyone else. I mean, we see that with, you know, people like Donald Trump who blame everyone else for when we don't trust ourselves, when we aren't aligned with ourselves, it's very difficult to trust anyone else around us, which leads to poor leadership, which leads to relationships that aren't healthy.
Yeah, bad dates.
Bad dates, bad marriages.
Yeah.
Like if you don't trust yourself, you will not be able to trust anyone else. So there's probably two ways I would answer that question. How do you strengthen your I use the language, how do you strengthen your connection to your intuition? And I think the first thing which is helpful is to understand what intuition actually is. So let's start with what intuition actually is, and then maybe talk about how can you strengthen your connection to it. So I've done quite a lot of work on building a bit of a framework about this, because intuition can feel like one of those quite nebulous, intangible things that everyone kind of wants, but no one really knows how to get. Intuition is basically, there's three inputs. First of all is your whole body experience, your mind body intelligence, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. The second input into intuition is your lived experience. So whole body intelligence, then your lived experience, the experiences you've had, the things you've learnt, what you've been through. And then your final input is your connection to a higher being or a source, dependent on your own personal spiritual belief or religious belief. So we've got this kind of holy trinity of intuition, your mind body intelligence, all of the information and data that your whole body is continually gathering, distributing within you and interpreting. That is a wealth of information about what is and isn't right for you. Then we've got your lived experience, which is important but can also be quite problematic sometimes, because that's where a lot of our fears and limiting beliefs exist. And then you've got your connection to a higher being, if that's something that you personally believe in. So you can almost think of those three sources or three inputs as like radio stations. So you can tune it, you can like tune in your frequency, you can get more calibrated to those different inputs so that you can recognize intuitive messages when they come up, so that you almost remove the mystical nature from it. So a great example with the whole body intelligence, and when I talk about whole body intelligence, what I mean is we've got intelligence in our mind, that's our cognitive intelligence in our heart, our emotional intelligence, and then we've got a few different types of intelligence throughout our physical body. Okay, our entire body mind is a single system. So a great example of this is I've become a lot more attuned to my it's called interoception, my inner body intelligence over the last couple of years. If my fingers fizz, I know that is a sign within a particular context. If my fingers fizz within a particular conversation, or if I'm working on a particular idea, I know that is right for me. That's my body telling me, yes, this is something that makes you curious, that brings you alive. This is for you. Follow that. So that's one example of intuition. By tuning into these different frequencies and getting more familiar with them, we can start to more readily hear what our inner voice is telling us, and then we can start to experiment with acting on it. How do we start to just make more intuitive decisions and see where they lead us? Because most of us need evidence to trust. So when we follow our intuitive decisions and we see what it unfolds for us, it becomes much easier to trust. I'm going to pause there because I've just like thrown a load of stuff at you. And we can do an example of this later with tarot if you want, because I know that's something that you and I kind of vibe over. But we can do an example of that with tarot.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, we've got a few things coming up in the comments here, so let me just quickly have a look. So Work Life Mother said, I accepted a job in London when I was husband hunting because I felt like that's where I needed to be. That's very, very cool. And then we've got Berkhamsted Reflexology. Guys, we're seeing this as video's not working. We'll have to catch later. No worries. And this replay will be available on my channel, so you can absolutely catch up later. And then we've got, how do you distinguish between gut instinct and fear? They can often feel the same.
That is a brilliant question. I'm actually going to just offer a slight reframe to the question, because I think it's quite important to distinguish between instinct and intuition. Instinct is a primal response to threat. It's our survival response. So your instinct will tell you how to stay alive, how to survive. Your intuition will help you understand how to thrive. Your intuition is interested in you growing as a human being. Your instinct is only interested in you staying alive. It can be quite an interesting, quite an important distinction. But to your question about how do you tell the difference between intuition and fear, I've actually done a whole video on this, and I can share it with Artie so she can put it in her stories. There are telltale signs, but you're right, they can feel different. They can feel quite similar. Mm-hmm. So a couple of clues that something may be intuition rather than fear. A decision based on fear tends to feel quite, depending on how connected you are to your body, a decision based on fear will tend to feel quite constrictive. You will almost feel like a squeezing within your body, whereas an intuitive decision, even if it's a bit scary, will tend to feel a bit more expansive. Yeah. Okay, so that's something you need to kind of practice tuning into, but that's one way. Another way, which is a more sort of cognitive way, if that's more your sort of intelligence preference, a decision based on fear will imagine a future of disaster if you don't follow this decision. So an example, relationships are a great example. If I leave this marriage, I'll be unhappy for the rest of my life. I'll never find anyone else who wants me. So I'll stay in the marriage. That's a decision based on fear. A decision based on intuition will imagine a future of possibility and growth. So if I leave this marriage, it will be difficult and it will lead me to a life of greater freedom and truth for me. Okay, so they will imagine different futures. There's another couple, but I'm going to leave it. There's another couple of clues, but I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to kind of.
No, this is good. This is really cool because I think, I can completely relate to that contraction expansion. Definitely, there's been moments where all I've wanted to do was contract, really, really contract. But then there's been those moments where even though it's been really, really scary, there's been almost that sense of below all the craziness and the turmoil, there's this element of peace just right at the bottom.
Yeah. And you're someone who's very in tune with your body. Like I know you dance a lot. Like you probably have quite a good sense of the different clues in your body. For someone who's less used to that and is more used to the cognitive piece, it can also be really helpful to pay attention to the clues that your mind is telling you.
So that's the sort of disaster planning.
Yeah. What story is my mind creating here? Yeah. And is that a story that's based on fear or intuition?
So what about, for example, thinking of a very specific scenario that I was in when I was trying to go on my personal fearless dating journey was this moment.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need to blow my nose. I've got a really bad cold.
I'll
sorry guys, this is so gross.
So
I'm so sorry. It's real life.
No, exactly. This is how it happens. We keep it real here on this channel, right? So when I was, for example, when I was dating, was trying to learn how to date, I had these moments where I would flip between, about to go on a date or go to an event or go to sign up to something. And there would be this real moment of contraction of like, oh, don't want to do it. Like, this is horrible. This is horrible. But then if I stayed with that feeling long enough, then came the moment of then the expansion of then moving away from the disaster planning to, well, what happens if you don't do this? You're going to stay the way that you have been up until this point. You're always going to remain being scared of dating. You're always going to feel alone, or you're never going to get that opportunity to create that relationship that you want. And so it's like, what do you encourage your clients to stay with that feeling of contraction if that's where they're at and they're thinking, okay, this is a decision that's not right for me to make?
So a couple of things I would say to that. It can be really powerful to learn to tune into different frequencies of your intuition, because particularly when you're making a decision that is likely to expand you in some way or expose you in a new way, your body and your mind will do every fucking thing it can to shut that down. No, stay small. So it's really useful to learn to tune into different things. And there's a specific exercise that I do with clients to help them like go through the different frequencies of intuition and see which one is loudest for them, so they can start to figure out where to pay attention. What I love in what you're talking about is there's a book called Playing Big by Tara Moore, which I imagine you've probably read.
I've not heard
No,
of that.
oh my God, you would love it. So
Okay.
Playing Big by Tara Moore, and she talks about two different types of fear. And she's Jewish. The Yiddish words, I think, is it Yiddish or Hebrew? I think the Hebrew words are pachad and yira. And one of the types of fear is like the fear of the things that aren't real, the monsters under the bed, the shadows at night, the scary stories. And that is a fear that we don't want to be driven by. The other fear shows us something that is for us. It's the fear that we get when we're about to do something that's going to expand us, that's going to expose us to something new, which we're not quite sure that we're ready for. And that's a really powerful fear to sit with and to recognize. And a way you can tell the difference, again, doesn't work for everyone, like monster under the bed fear will present you with fake news. Here's all of the reasons that you can't do this, because you're not going to get that job because someone else is better qualified than you, everyone always gets promoted above you, you're shit, blah, blah, blah. It will present you with a load of fake news that's generally very critical to keep so that you stay small. Whereas if it's an intuitive decision, there will just be let's give this a go. If it's the voice of intuition, even if it's scary, it won't like offer justifications or like a ream of stuff. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I'm liking that. So, yeah, but I like the fake news analogy. I love that. Okay.
You can't do it.
Exactly. You can't do this. This is going to happen. Oh my God. This
is going to happen. Yeah. And then everyone will die.
Yeah, exactly. You'll die. Everyone will die. Then it will all be over. Yeah, exactly. Versus actually the other type of fear, the expansive fear, is in some ways quieter.
Yes, I think it is, because it doesn't have as much actually I was going to say something and then I completely lost my train of thought. Yes, I think it is quieter.
Yeah. I think for some reason, now that you've mentioned Trump, he keeps popping up in my head, and of course
I talk about the man way too much. I need to move on. I really do.
He's gone now.
Yeah,
gone.
it's okay.
It's
We're all
over.
okay now.
It's over. The relationship's over.
I can't let go.
But this is like, he was
I need
noisy.
to take that to therapy.
He was noisy. He was in your face.
Yes.
He was always, these scaremongering tactics of like, this is going to happen.
He was like the cartoon of an inner critic.
Right, exactly. Perfect. The perfect cartoon of the inner critic, right? Versus the other fear, which I'm just trying to tap back into those moments where I've set myself a challenge, or, for example, kind of what felt like I was forcing myself to go on dates, but knowing that there was something else. I didn't have answers. I had questions, but I didn't necessarily have answers to those questions, right? Of like, but what if? I couldn't even finish the sentence, right? And that, in that sense, that's where it felt a bit quieter.
And I love that thing about questions, because something I talk about with clients a lot is curiosity and fear cannot coexist. If you can introduce curiosity, it will often reveal to you whether it's like real fear or intuition. If you can introduce like, what could I be curious about in this situation? What might I learn about the type of guy that really makes me feel alive?
Yeah.
What could I experiment with tonight? Could I experiment with bringing more of my feminine energy here, or more of my fiery, like, sexual energy here? Like, what could I experiment with? What could I get curious about? And the same is true in career settings. Like, you know, a lot of people get a lot of, you know, imposter syndrome is a well discussed topic, obviously. And one of the ways to explore imposter syndrome is to kind of get curious about what might I learn here? What can I experiment with here? And it just removes the kind of you'll fail or succeed harshness that comes with the fake fear.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so important, because that is like a really basic tenet of the I always say tenet.
I do that. I do that. I always add an N.
It's not
No idea
tenant.
why. Tenant.
Tenet of the fearless dating work, in that it's about developing what I like to think of as supreme curiosity about
Oh, love
yourself,
that.
about your date,
Yes.
about what you co-create together, about who you become as you
Yes.
date, and you move closer to that relationship that you want to create when that one comes to an end, and the next one, etc. It's supreme curiosity, and that's a completely different energy.
And I honestly think curiosity might be one of the most underrated life skills. Like,
Mm,
if you can stay curious, I just think it's so much easier to have like, it's so much more fulfilling. And I think of actually an analogy from my own experience today. Like, I had a client today that I was nervous about. And when I noticed myself I tend to get nervous about a client because I'm like, I'm not doing a good enough job. I'm not helping them enough. They're going to think I'm a shit coach, blah, blah, blah. What I do in those moments is I try and stay curious.
mm,
What can I be, how do I stay in curiosity as opposed to trying to fix or find the outcome?
yeah.
And I do the same thing with difficult conversations with my husband. Like, there's something that we're working through at the moment that's we're stuck on. We're at an impasse and we don't know how to, there's no winner at the moment.
Mm,
And I'm trying to connect back to curiosity. Okay, what's happening for me here? Why is this so difficult for me? What's going on?
yeah.
As opposed to solution. Like, if you're stuck, go into curiosity rather than problem solving, because you obviously
Mm,
don't have enough information. If the solution isn't evident, you don't have enough information.
yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. That is such a essential life skill that will help you out in so many situations. I was coaching a client this morning, and the thing that he's really struggling with is that he is very, very shy. Feels that he's very, very shy. He struggles to communicate with women that he is and isn't attracted to. It's just something that he struggles with. And so we were kind of essentially role playing a date together of, okay, well, if you and I were on a date, like what's one thing that you would ask me? And it was interesting. Or what would you like to ask me about? And he was like, oh, I think it would be lovely to talk about this, this, and this. So then I asked him to ask me a specific question that he might ask on a date. And that's where he started to get a little bit like, oh, okay, I'm struggling with the question a bit here. So he found a question. We were speaking about music. So then I asked him, okay, well, like, what kind of music are you into? And so he told me his music type. And then I told him, well, one type of music that I'm into is I love rock and I love metal, which he was unfamiliar with, right? It wasn't his type of
Yeah.
music. So it's like, okay, now ask me a question about that. So he asked me a question about it. And because I wanted us to really explore this space of being curious together. Well, I told him about favorite band, Foo Fighters, love this song specifically, right? And then he went to this place of, oh, well, I don't know that band. I don't know that song. Let me move on to something else, right? And he moved on to a different question,
Interesting.
right? And I was like,
Yeah.
well, what you've done there is you've just kind of essentially broken the connection a bit
Yeah.
between us, because I've just shared with you something that's
Yeah.
really important and a big
Yeah.
part of my life.
And it's part of me.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
right? This is where we get to really meet each other.
Mm.
And so I asked him, like, what could you ask me about this band, this song, the fact that I can't wait to see them live again? And he was really struggling with that. So we looked at, okay, well, again, this, if we put this supreme curiosity hat on, of, well, I don't have a clue about this band. I don't have a clue about that
Yeah.
song that you've, or this genre of music. But the fact that it's important to you, well, let's find out a bit more about that. Like, what is it that you love about that song? Can you
Yeah.
tell me? And then I'm like, oh, okay, he wants to know more. Right?
And I think one thing that you're touching on here that is, it's so important in the world, particularly at the moment, in dating, in careers, is that we're not very comfortable in not knowing. And again, this comes back to trust. If we trust ourselves that we are whole and perfect and enough, regardless of what we do or don't know, we can be present with someone else's superior knowledge
Yeah.
and not feel threatened. Whereas a lot of us, if we don't, I mean, you've seen it over the last year, like no government has said, we don't know, sorry, let's try and figure this out together.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got a plan, and the plan doesn't work. We've got another plan, the plan doesn't work. If we could all just get a bit more used to saying, I don't know,
Yeah.
let's find out together. I don't know, tell me more.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to thinking that we have to have an opinion, that we have to know, because otherwise it's somehow threatening to our ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Completely.
yeah.
Completely agree with that. It's like, it's okay not to know. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are you going to meet as you date? How many jobs are you going to apply for, and the different people that you meet along the way? You're not going to know everything about that person or that
And
area.
that's okay.
And
In fact, that's
exciting.
wonderful. Because if you
Yeah.
knew everything, can you imagine how fucking boring life would
Exactly.
be if you knew everything? Can you imagine how boring dating would be
Mm-hmm.
if there was no space for that person
Yeah.
to enrich your life in any way?
Yeah. And I think one of the most attractive qualities, if I think about people that I've really enjoyed being in relationship with or going on dates with or just friends and family, is the people that are the most curious. I think curiosity is so attractive. So attractive,
So do I.
right?
Yeah.
I
It's
think
probably
it's,
my number one thing that I love about my husband, his like imagination and curiosity. Not necessarily
yes.
about me, but about like the world.
Yes, exactly. You know, someone that can sit in front of you and not have a clue what you're talking about in terms of the subject, the music, whatever, but still is intrigued by it enough to
Yeah.
want to know more. That
Yeah.
man, that is so, just, you're a fearless date. If you can be curious about your dates in to that degree, you already are, you know, so far ahead of the game from other people that are out there struggling to date right now. You know, if you
Yeah.
can bring that online, that kind of curiosity online,
Yeah.
that goes beyond the where are you from, what do you do, where do you live nonsense,
Yeah.
then you can actually start to strike up that kind of deep connection that so many of us are looking for in our relationships, in our careers as well. And I'm so aware of the time right now because I
Yeah,
know
I
you're
do.
going to cap
I
it.
need to, I know, I'm sorry, I need to stop at 8. Mainly because I
No.
haven't eaten and I'm starving.
Cool, that's fine. I think, you know, there's so much here for us to continue to explore. I would love to have
I
you
love
join me
this.
on the podcast, and there's just so much more. And, you know, there's going to be plenty more seasons of this as well, which I think we can continue this conversation. Can
I
I
would
very
love to.
cheekily ask you to do that
Oh, yes.
very special surprise for us? Our lovely Victoria is going to pull a tarot card for all of you
So
who
I'm
are watching.
totally obsessed with tarot and astrology. So if anybody wants, I promised Artie I'd do this.
Yes.
If anybody wants to put their hand up and just get maybe a little message of guidance from their own intuition about something that they are finding challenging or would like a bit of clarity on.
So
I'm more than happy to pull
shall
a
we?
card.
Okay, so if you want to put your hand,
Shout out.
yeah, put your
First come,
hand
first served.
up, and then what we can do, because I know now Instagram Live is letting us bring more than one person onto the or more than two people, sorry, live. If you don't want to do that, put your hand up. Come on, come on. I can see 5 people with us.
Come on, otherwise I'm just going to do Artie.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Priya's got her hand up. Do you want to come live on camera to have your tarot read out to you live and direct from my lovely Victoria?
You don't have to share anything personal. I'll ask you to hold a question in your head. Don't worry.
Let's see. Hang on. You can, let me see if I can send you that request. If you want to reject it, you can, and we'll go ahead regardless. Oh, she's declined. Okay, cool. We'll do this
Okay.
this way then.
So Priya, just hold a question in your head or a topic that you would, no worries, that you would like a bit of clarity on. Just close your eyes, hold it in your mind. And what I'm going to do is just pull one card. I'm going to show you the image on the card. And we're going to start by seeing what message your intuition has for you, okay? Ooh. So I've got no idea what your topic or your question is. So I've pulled the Queen of Swords. Does that come up the right way round?
Yes.
It's backwards.
Well, yeah, actually, it's backwards, but I get it. We get it.
Fine. So Priya, I've pulled the Queen of Swords. So before I share with you the theme of this card, just notice what your mind, body is telling you right now. Just see if you have a particular emotional response to the card. If there's any sensations in your body, whether they make sense or not, just make a note of them. And just see if there's any messages that are floating into your mind as you sit with this card in relation to the question you are holding. So the Queen of Swords is all about, so the Queen of Swords is basically a fierce, intelligent female leader. The tarot isn't necessarily gendered, but it's all about kind of rationality, logic, removing and creating some emotional distance from a situation. So the Queen of Swords is very much like a Madonna, like not as in Madonna and Child, like Madonna. So she's very cool, she's very collected, maybe even a little bit distant, but she does so from a place of leadership. She's able to manage her emotions so that she can see the truth of a situation. Okay, so just see if you can harness some of that energy for yourself, or if there is potentially someone else in your life who this card reminds you of that might be able to support you.
Very cool. Okay,
oh my God, Priya, I totally want to know if that made any sense or if that has any resonance for you, but feel free to like DM me or Artie separately.
Let us know. Thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate
Welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure, as
so
always,
much fun
to see you, my love.
Yes, you too. And yeah, let us continue this conversation. There's loads more I still want to ask you, but we can plan that for future dates, most definitely.
We can get into it.
Oh, it does make sense. Okay, like awesome.
Wonderful.
Yes. So yes, for anyone that wants to follow Victoria's work, make sure you press follow on her Instagram account and then your website. I'll make sure I link that in the description as well.
And there's a free 5-step guide to like basically building your intuition. It's called the 5-step guide to making decisions that are right for you or something, but it's essentially about strengthening your intuition. So feel free to get your hands on that if you want.
Yes, we need that for some fearless dating. So thank you so much, Victoria.
You're welcome. Lots of love, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
I don't even know how to exit.
I'll do it, don't worry.
Thank you.
Bye.